Cool. All right. Okay. Just get recording. Okay. Does anybody have anything that they would like to show first or would like some feedback on before I continue?
Actually, I'm working on something.
Yes.
Can I show it to the at the end of the class?
Yeah, if we don't run out of time, there's just sometimes we tend to go on for a bit long if I do a demo thing.
Okay.
Do you want to upload it first, or is it already uploaded?
No, actually, I'm working on it. There's some parts remaining, so
Oh, okay.
I'm working on it right now.
Well, when you've got something, just we can stop and have a look.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brett's got something. I can always give you some feedback now, Brett. In general. Okay, share the screen. Okay. So it's a good thing when you're doing like compressions for the spines to try and get these C shapes here, like this. Right. So if we can tuck the hips underneath and kind of bend the chest down a little bit more, that's going to give a better change of shape. So you're going from the C shape to a straight. Now I'd probably dip the head through it. So as you're coming pressing down, the head then becomes the kind of like the leading aspect of jumping out. So just emphasize the kind of see head's coming up over, then dip it through. I'd probably just do a little change on the hips. So if this is the leading leg coming down here, the hip is actually lower this side as compared to this side. Just reading through some feedback. Also, when you land here, so you got the hips low, foot lands, then a change, right, to feel the weight and impact of the hip, like pushing up the other way. So then feel the hip come up this side. Really try and emphasize the shoulders, like especially when your arms lift up, the shoulders need to make sure they're activated and come up, because I think it's about 90 degrees, and then anything above that, the clavicle needs to get activated and bring up. Right? Think of the shoulders are the eyebrows of the body, so you can be quite expressive, and they've got a lot of freedom of movement here. It helps. So as you're coming up, and then you start to come down, the shoulders can still be rising up a little bit. Then you hit, and then you're coming up, the shoulders can come down. So you start to build some overlap there. But all in all, it's a pretty solid start. Cool.
Cool. Thank you so much.
All right. Jesse, did you want to go through this quickly, or?
Yeah, sure. Excuse me. New. So I, just one quick thing. I kind of screwed up the body in the first half, so it kind of looks a little janky. But I didn't get a chance to fix it, so I did as much as I could in the best day. So
sure.
Yep.
It's not bad. Again, try and emphasize what side the hip is and what you're leaning on here, just a little bit, because if you emphasize something, it allows you to take it back the other way, and changes of direction and angles and shapes are really kind of more appealing to watch. Right, so as you're coming over here, just look at the way it's difficult for me to draw with this mouse at the moment, but center line, making sure that the character's actually over the weight of the heel. And if he's not, either you bring the foot in a little bit, which at the moment you should do, or you bring the character over further and then also raise the hip up. Okay, so as he's coming across, the hip would rise up, then come on the other side, the hip rise the other way. As a rule of thumb, our knees and our big toe kind of are always aligned. It's rare that they'll bend in like that without causing some type of pain. I think I need to read a little bit more kind of up and down through this section here as you're running through. Because at the moment it feels kind of just more leaning forward and the feet are moving, but I don't feel the body, like the mass of the character coming up and down. I think potentially that this arm's coming out a bit too early. You'd want to hold it, keep that compression. As you jump up, then the arm can come out with it. And think about as you're coming down, right? The elbow leads. So as you come down, you do this action. So the elbow comes, and then the wrist can come through, rather than you come down and kind of like the wrist is driving it. It feels a bit awkward. I think it's pretty good the way you're slowing down. Feels good. Cool. It's good stuff. Just pay attention to the hip, right? If you're contacting something, the hip, you want to feel a little bit of shape change there. Great, nice.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, so we've got Julia. You got something that you want to go through as well, and who else?
Yeah, just a rough run blocking.
Okay.
Without jump yet.
Okay.
The one with the reference, yeah, it's too quick. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry. Yep. It's got to be careful that it feels quite big, the up, but then you're traveling across screen quite a small amount.
Mm-hmm.
So what you don't want is get this kind of up and this shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that the character is traveling nicely across shot that way.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, cool. Good start.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Bring up the chat. Here we go. Okay, so I've got the chat here. Nothing of a question. Olympic star animation. Yeah, if you can get the character, like maybe finally either standing back on their 2 feet or just kneeling on one knee or something. That'd be good. Cool. Okay. Get a quick get up from a fall. Yeah, that's fine. I think as long as we just show the recovery of the jump, that'd be good. All right, let's stop sharing and go into Maya. So I think everyone was quite interested in understanding more about animation layers or how they can be used to lock a shot out. So I'm just going to kill this stuff. So a couple of housekeeping things that I tend to like doing. I like to grab my FK arms on the elbows and lock every channel apart from the X. So then I can just middle mouse and just drag, and I know that I'm bending my elbow in the right direction. So I don't have to worry about, the Y or the Z. It's just a slightly simpler version that I'm dealing with here. I've got a blocking set that I've set up, and I've just set a key on everything on my first room. That's pretty much everything. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just start building in a run cycle. So I'm just going to start working on some poses for that. Check. I'm still learning how to animate with the main controller. Yep. So I'll do that as part of the as part of this demo as well. So for my preference, I tend to animate the body in terms of where I want the hips to be. So I'll move the entire body, and then I'll just do some slight adjustments and counter animate back this way. If you have questions and you've left them in the chat for a while, but I haven't got back to you, just shout them out. So I'm going to make sure we're in view here. So everything I do at the moment is just on the spot. The other thing I don't do is I don't use the foot rolls, because I find they become counterintuitive when you go to do cleanup and stuff. So I tend to rotate the actual control and then bend the toe up to fit. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn this on for now, just so I don't have to worry about animating the head, which basically this makes sure it's always to the kind of place control, so I don't have to worry about that. Does everyone understand what I mean by not using the roll and why I find it a bit easier? Do you tend to use FK arms? Yes, FK arms unless I need to, FK arms unless I want to like have the body constrained to something or the hand constrained to something, should I say. Yes, I use the roll until the foot leaves the ground. How do you deal with peeling off the ground smoothly without using the foot roll? Just counter out. Yes, I just pull the toes up. Otherwise, what happens with the foot, right, is you've got the control here, but you've used an attribute to bend the toe up. But then your passing position, you've stopped using the attribute, and you've got your controller here. So what happens, roll the foot up using the foot roll, and then I want to use the foot to come up my passing position. But what happens, you have this kind of clapperboard effect where the attribute's being turned off and the rotation of the actual foot control is coming up for the pass position. And you tend to have like these sticky moments, which it just takes forever to kind of iron it out. And also it doesn't make any sense in your curves. Your curve editor is completely kind of counterintuitive where you've got it flat and then coming up and then you've got something coming against it. So it confuses my brain a little bit. So that's why I tend to do it this way. Yeah. An extra E, so I'm just going to do this one. Reset this. Reset right here. Just add a gentle bit of rotation into this, and then just pull this stuff back. A little bit here. Just going to drop the hip down ever so slightly a little bit, and then pull the body back up. Last night I used to keep the body controller flat, normal, and tilted the hip control on the upper body instead of what you're doing here. Is there a benefit to using one or the other technique? So by leaving the hip control alone for now, it's going to allow me to add in extra bit of weight on the hip without affecting or counter animating the rest of the upper body later, right? So by moving the body control, I'm naturally introducing everything else above that into a pose that I'm kind of constructing. And the whole kind of inside out idea of when you're constructing 3D animation means that the whole body is moving. You know, you don't have these very small isolated points, but because now I can go in here and if I hide this, I've got my hips, right? I can add in, I can dip it down further, or, you know, emphasize a big hit or a flick of the hips this way. But I've still got a really good starting point from kind of moving the body. I mean, there's no right or wrong way, but this is just the way I tend to look at it. Okay, so just paste. So I'm just actually first of all up, down. I'm just going to mirror this pose. So now I need to delete this here just so the curve and the pose starts to work into one another as it's coming down. There. And then I'm just going to rework the arm poses now. This one first. This is why I do quite enjoy using Animbot's mirror functions for this kind of smooth flipping. Just going to fade this side just a smidge. Copy and paste this pose here. So by moving that, I'm just middle mouse clicking and it just kind of freezes the pose in time. And then I'm just using the mirror function here just to get the flip. I do not want to show that again. Clearly this arm is coming around too fast. Again. Quickly take a look from the front to hide the set. So this is why it's good to be able to put things into quick groups so I can just quickly hide what I don't need. Now I'm just going to make sure that my character is balanced. I'm just going to eyeball some of this now. Copy this and these frames from here, middle mouse and click. Oh, it's going to be moved back in to the Z channel. Let's add another little so for this foot. Okay, so now work out what these arms are going to do. It's clearly too much. Really not enough. Sort out some of these rotations between extreme points. So delete this, reset the key. And what I want to do here is it's going to mirror across this arm to the other side. It's going to give me the same, and same goes for this as well. So basically this arm moves in the same time now. But what I can do with this nice function over here called the time offset, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I say 4 frames and I click this time offset, what it will do is it will offset those curves in time, but also kind of mirror the rotations and stuff for me. So if I what's half of this cycle? 4. I do the mirror, and it's now going to do that. It's only done it on the single frame, so I need to actually undo that. So I need to make sure I do it across this timeline. And now, in theory, should have worked. If I break something, I think I broke it. Try that again for you. Mirror. Those. Didn't like it much. Perfect. Fix the other side. Yep, I'm just going to quickly turn this to a pre and post infinity cycle so I can see what's going on here. It looks like it sticks, then I'll fix it. Okay. So then I'm just going to, there's two things you can do. You can middle mouse click and drag this out until you're kind of happy with a rough timing, or you can convert these keys in here to be breakdown keys, and they'll change the color to green, which means you only have to select that one end, and they kind of all will naturally offset from one another. So if we take this to frame 14 and we just bring that down, see what that's giving us. So I really don't like these arms, so it's going to kill the animation keys. Is that a default feature? Yes, default. So the other thing I'm going to do is delete the key on this side. Just reset it. Yeah. So I'm going to right click and convert these back to keys. And I'm going to run the Smart Snap tool in an inbot under the Curve Tools Smart Snap keys, so I can just get it back onto whole frames. And I'm just going to open this up again, actually, because keys, Smart Snap. I like to work on even keys as and when I can. And what I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to check my gimbal control to see whether I've got the right feeling here. And with the X rotation, I should be seeing up, down, yeah. Very simple swing forward and swing back. So here is my first key. I'm just going to kill that one. This is my back. Lost something with this. Whoops. Excuse me while I undo all this because I've made a mistake somewhere. Key. Let's just double check. Show this again. Show this again. Show this again. It's going to make sure that I set the keys on these channels for everything because I felt like something was slipping out the way. Set keys. Set. Delete. Okay. Kill this in here. Kill this in here. Curve out. Look, I've missed a hose out somewhere here. Yeah, I missed that one. Anybody got any questions on that? plugin you're using, and what is that free? It's free for Anim School students at the moment, but afterwards you have to pay for it, I think. Copy that across the other side. I've got to have something which is potentially usable. That's what I do first. So, right, it just gives an example of one. So now I have a cycle on here. Let's bring this back. So the steps I would take next would be to select my controls here, go to the Anim Layers tab, use this button over here to create a fake layer and just delete it because all the animation is on this layer. And I'm just going to right click and say extract selected objects. And I'm just going to call this underscore run cycle. Okay, so if I turn that off, it's going to play nothing. Okay. If I turn it on, it's going to play the run cycle. So I want to do all my place animation on the base animation layer. So I'm just going to set a key here. And I'm just going to have a character run into shot. Based on reference. Come over to here. Just make sure these keys are not play blasting. I'm not interested in play blasting. Splines. Just going to slow the character down a little bit. Now with these controls selected, what you can do is you can take like snapshots of what is on the layer above if you're in the base animation layer. So I can go through here and maybe find out where I want to stop my character from running. And if I want to match my reference, like for like, I could go into my animation layer here, look in the graph editor and just slide these keys around so I can find out where that left leg lands. So as I'm running in now, I can start to slow down my animation cycle, but base it on landing on my left leg. So what I'm going to do here is just hit S on the keyboard to set a key on the base animation layer, because if I turn this off now, that pose is locked in the base animation layer. Does that make sense? Yeah. So what I can do is what I'm going to do to this run cycle layer is add an additive layer. So layers, create empty layer. If I right click here, it says additive. Okay. And I'm just going to right click and say add selected object. So I've got just my body control in here. Right? So all I'm going to do is just add an offset of this. And the character's still going to run in. But I need my character to kind of lean back a little bit as well. And I'll layer in the other shot afterwards for here. Going forward, and then it comes this. Okay. Again, I'm just using kind of my judgment on what I want to do. But likewise, like I had done a snapshot previously at frame 28, I'm going to do one at frame 31, actually kill the one at 28. What it's going to do is just look at that top layer, and whatever I've added to everything up here is going to freeze that pose. So the other thing I'm going to do is set that key here, and at frame 20, I'm going to set another key. Okay. Scroll up to frame 31 and then dial it down to 0. So I'm going to have my run cycle, and then it's going to slowly come out of that run cycle and freeze on the pose that I had set previously, and then I can kind of marry up a little bit the pose that's in my video ref here. Again, I'm just on the base animation layer now. Again, this is quite a technical way of animating, right? Which can be a bit confusing at first, but it can give you a lot of freedom of kind of exploring different ideas and poses. So I've still got my run cycle, and I'm blending into this pose that I've been building up here, down here. So this is, I'm just going to call this add, run cycle add. So now down here, I'm going to look at doing more traditional piece of animation. It's still using my base control, just moving this around as well. So I'm just gonna got a key here. I'm gonna set a key here. I'm just gonna move this foot back a little bit, flick between the poses. I'm using the backslash to manipulate going in and out of my camera view without actually affecting any of my translate data. It's called like 2D pan and zoom if you were to dig it out into the attribute editor. It's quite a nice way to move around within the camera view. Too sure where this one is going. Selection setback. There we go. Here I can just drag this over here and almost just reset everything in here. So it's the one that's going to be landing. Take it off. Build. Here. Zero that out. Sorry, I've got some. Trying to be as quick as I can, but unfortunately with animation it does take some time. But you see how quite freeing it is to be able to move the character as a whole very quickly. So because I've got my place controller here as well, I can either use it like this, tilt it back, because you know, that later I will be stripping this out to be a world space, but for now I'm just kind of looking at poses. As you can tell, I'm not being too precious with Pose is such an early stage. Any other comments at the moment, or it's still okay? Yes, I'll lock it once once I'm happy with the blocking. I'll switch it over into world space. I blended back up the run. Yeah. Right, so the timing across the jump, because we've got a larger gap, you get that kind of ramp up. So I'm just going to grab the place control, and I can see that it's ramping up across here. I'm extremely sorry, but I don't understand what world space is. That's fine. I'll explain to you when it gets to it. So across here, it's ramping up and then slowing down. So if I want to get across there but not make it feel like it's speeds up, I'm probably going to have to make sure that I increase the spacing across here in terms of time. If I mess around with this, land in the right place. Isn't so bad. I could just reduce the environment here to suit my needs. It's an easier fix than messing too much with anything else. Place this control. That's not quicker. Still not perfect. Back in here. Darn it. Set. Okay, let's just get rid of that reference for a second. Okay. All I'm going to do now is okay, so I'm going to take this to 120. And I'm just going to collapse the layers. First of all, I'm going to save. It's kind of a, you know, blocking version 1, just to give me a rough sense of what's going on here. The other option I had earlier as well was just to block out a sphere, so I could have a slight example of just tracing kind of over the top of the video reference that was there as a guide. But now I have some information on my character. You know, if I spent a day doing the run cycle properly, you got it till I was happy with it, and then used it in my scene with the kind of techniques that I'm showing you, I could get to a certain level for the blocking a lot better than what I have today. But now I've got this saved. I'm just going to collapse this down, and I'm going to do it by selecting all the layers. I'm going to right click and go to merge layers in the option box, and I'm going to hit that smart option here. So it's not going to bake it on ones if I don't want it to. It's going to use the keys that I have set here, and it's going to, where I'm blending in and out of the layers, it's going to just try and look at where those keys are represented in the cycle, like the infinity cycles that I've set up for them, and try and do it in a smart way. So I'm just going to apply that now. Okay. So the scaling box is something which is inside of Maya from the get-go, just not many people know about it. So if I grab my head control or something with some curves, I can select a bunch of curves. There's just this option here. This is for scaling, so you can set like markers. Right, if I set some markers, and then I can scale in between those points if I want to. This one will just kind of scale up and down. It's like a nice little version of you can do from it. I don't really use the other ones are kind of lattices where you can bend and stuff like that. It can get a bit messy. Okay. So I've got a single animation layer now with everything baked down as smart keys. okay, through here. So what I tend to do is I'll watch it first. I'll be like, okay, this isn't so bad. It looks all right. But there's, you know, some places where it's not quite working for me, and, you know, I want to maybe just have a quick look and see what it feels like in step keys. So as an option, I mean, I can save this, right? But I'll also grab these, and then I'll go up into my my keys, my edit keys simulation, and I'll go over to here, and I will make sure Smart Bake is turned off, and I'll just come in here and I'll set some kind of arbitrary value, say like 3. So what it's going to go is going to go through this entire animation now. Instead of key every 3 frames and strip out the stuff that's not on every 3 frames, it will allow me to quickly view my shot in step keys, and I can see where things are working and not working. So I'm just going to quickly apply that, and then I'm just going to set all my keys to stepped. And if I come back to the start and watch, now I can see my animation from step key, but I've got a very clean block where I've got keys on every 3 frames. So I can check now whether this jump needs more time, right? Or in fact, actually I need to change where this is coming down. But first I'm just gonna see if this needs more time. So I'm gonna say, let me just watch it back a couple of times. So it's a bit hasty across these parts. So there's a nice little function on the timeline, where if you go to keys, just click the lines at the top, is add or remove in-betweens. And if I click add in-between, it's just going to shift all the keys to the right of where your cursor is along by 1 frame. So I'm just going to add a frame here. I'm going to add another frame here. I'm going to add a frame, add a frame. And now all I've done is just added 2 frames for that little section there. And already that starts to feel a little bit more even. And what I'm going to do now is just grab my place, and I want to make sure that I'm actually going to be landing on this thing. So I'm just going to just slightly alter how I'm seeing this. So now, because I've stripped out some of that information earlier, I've lost a little bit of maybe impact that I wanted to have. So I'm just going to just slightly alter some of these poses now. So in this stage, you mainly focus on timing and spacing and not too much on poses. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not too concerned by poses. What I want to do is just get my character moving through 3D space as fast as possible. You know, like not as in moving fast through space, but trying to visualize that, because I'm more of kind of a visual animator, I guess. I can see it in my head, but it's not until I start watching it back where I know what I need to fix. So I've got these poses here, but this is quite slow, right? The spacing of the character isn't moving much, but I've got like 4 frames between them. So I'm going to actually bring that back down to 2 frames. Okay, and I don't think I did that properly. So let me undo that. And bring it back to. So now it should have a little bit more of an impact. Coming down. Boom. Get this foot out here. Boom, boom. Coming up this toe now. I'll just start to alter the poses just a little bit. Down a little bit more here. I'm missing that kind of air pose, right? So maybe I want to add that on that third frame. Right? Maybe it's not come up, popping up quite a bit there. So maybe I just want to show that foot more here. Back a little bit. Right. I've barely looked at my video reference because I kind of, I've done this a fair few times now, so I don't need to worry as much. Yeah, I need to work on this area because this was very rough and kind of put together. Okay, right. So say I've done this, I've worked up this area and I'm quite happy with it. I now need to strip this information off of the place control so I can really start to think about nailing down the feet and polishing that off. So this is where that world space tool comes into play. And I need to just dig out the script, so bear with me a second. Scripts. Where did I put you? There. Oh, I know where it is. Bear with me. Where do I have it? You know what? I can show you that for next time. Let's not over confuse what's going on, and let's see if we can just tidy up a little bit more around here. Get back to our graph. Pull this down here, and I'm actually going to switch my keys back into tangents so I can watch what's going on. Okay, so coming down. Oh, I'm not sharing. Am I? Here we go. Told you need to let me know. Turn that ref off because that's, after a while this becomes very confusing reference. And I'm just going to put that down a little bit. Extend. Over here. Extend. Now I can start coming off a little bit here. Okay. Now I'm going to bring that ref back again. And I'll come back hits, but it rocks forward. Right. So kind of it's come forward. The hips are then stop and pull back. But the chest is still got to come forward a little bit. So I'm just going to build a little bit of that overlap in here, and still a little bit of that coming up. Down, zoom in. Focus down, back here. Good. So I'm kind of a little bit more straight ahead a little bit for this bit. So with using the place control, you've got to worry less about, because if I want to lock this foot down, but I want it to lock it here because I'm using the place, it's going to slide around a little bit. So don't be too precious about things. So speeding up a fair bit there, so I'm just going to check out. Again, it's hard, right? I will definitely, where have I put that world space tool? I thought I showed you a little bit last week, so I don't know where it's gone. I'll dig it out. I did, I know I did. It's because I changed laptops, that's probably why. Really rough in a few bits of this. Delete that key and begin the world. You uninstall it, most likely. Okay, let's bring this one. Yes. So yeah, don't be afraid to delete stuff if it's not quite working. Okay, so I've got that kind of ramping up again, coming through here, but again, I can clear that up at another date. Not worried. My guided sphere that I delete. So I don't know. It's very quick. What hour block that I spend on this is in not a too bad a shape. So now I've got several options for me. I can continue going on with this for a little bit longer, pull it into world space, and then start really defining and cleaning it up. Or I could bring in a fresh rig, and by doing a fresh rig, I could do either the pose-to-pose method by moving across shot, but now I have kind of a very good 3D guide that I want to use, or I could use a layered approach, whereby I just animate a little bit at a time, starting with the body, move that around, getting the up and down and the rotations and the weight of that, then layer in the legs and arms and the head and the shoulders. That's also another option that you can explore. But, anyway, I think I'll park it there for now as a kind of option to show what you can do with a block. Does anyone have any comments about that kind of method? It's fast. Surprising what you can get done in an hour. Obviously, if you know the method, it wasn't perfect by no means, but it's definitely a quick way to get something down on on paper, so to speak, or in the scene. Cool. Any questions at all? Oh, hello. I can't hear you very well.
I'm searching for a microphone.
Oh, hi. I can hear you now.
Okay, here is it. Quick question. In running, you did infinite running.
I did what, sorry?
Infinite running.
Yes.
It will loop.
So it's just a cycle. I think it was like 16 frames. I think in the end that I just had looping in the background. So no matter where I was in the timeline.
If I want to start it from zero.
Sure.
Then it run a bit slow. Then it will reach the maximum speed.
So
it will be working. Yeah.
You want somebody to walk and then run into the shot?
Yes, from zero, from stop to run.
Oh, from standstill?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could have a, or like a sprint cycle that you work on first, and all you do is you animate into that. So you just have a character standing still in an idle position that they just lean into or start walking and then lean into it. But what you're doing is actually you're dialing up the animation layer. So you've got the base layer where you're just standing and I start to lean and maybe I start on a bounce. It's quite a good idea to have a run cycle or something that starts the first poses on the compression, because you get that kind of anticipation, especially if you're using like a layer blend, then the character's going to go down and then up into that run. Or you do it like I suggest, right? You can bring as many rigs into a scene as you want, right? You could do one that you've done a run cycle with, and you kind of just drag it across shot. So okay, that's a really good speed. That's how it feels like. And then you just have your clean character where you do like the proper animation, but you've got this guide on, in the scene with you. It's up to you, but make sure that maybe experiment a little bit with this if you like, but if you've always got that kind of more traditional way of kind of 3D animation, whereas you kind of just pose it out as you go. I just don't want anyone getting confused by anything too new, right? I'll iterate over this over the next 11 weeks anyway, and show you more, but I can do the more traditional method as well without animation layers, still using the main mover, and then convert that back into world space. So I can show you that as well next week, because it is fast, and you're straight into splines as well that way.
The character we're using,
Yeah.
when I tried to animate it, it crashed. Every few minutes, it will crash the Maya.
What Maya version are you using?
2019.
Try and go back to 2018.6.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of options. Is I think in 2019 the try and turn off the caching, Play Blast caching. I think that those
How-
rigs aren't built for it. So see if that helps.
How can I reach to caching?
I think it's like a little play button, a green play button in the bottom, along the just where the time slider is. If you just
Oh,
turn
it's
that
awesome.
off, yeah, that should help.
Okay.
But if not, go back to 2018, and it's the 0.6 update, which is the kind of more stable version that I tend to use here.
Okay. That's right. Thank you.
Cool. Yes, there's something to do with the parallel and the DG. I think I've heard that before as well. Yeah, any other questions, anybody?
Can you explain the animation layer again? I mean, I didn't get how you switched from one layer to another.
Sure. So I've got a character here. I'll just use my ball. Select the
Okay.
ball, please.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Got our ball. And I've got some animation on the character. I'm going to go to the anim tab. And you probably won't have a base layer there. It's empty until you've created a layer. I use this button to quickly create a layer. Over here, I think it's just like create layer from selected. And then I'll just delete the one that is made. Basically, you want to start with the base animation layer. This is what the base animation layer is. I've selected that object. The animation is timeline. I am going to extract from that the information that I want to use, which in this case was a run cycle. So I'm going to right click and extract. It's going to pull the animation from the base and put it in this layer. Okay, and then I'm just going to give it whatever name I want to give it. Run cycle, whatever that is. So if I turn that layer off, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to stay in place. But then if I start to blend this up, you see it's moving across shot up until where those keyframes are. Okay. And then, so this is an override layer. So it's basically overriding what's here. And then you can, if you want to do like minute adjustments of this layer, you could do an additive layer. So you can do that by selecting this layer here, or go into layers, create empty layer, or create layer options, create empty layer, right click, add the selected object. And then if you right click, you can see layer mode. So override or additive. So what this allows me to do is, say I want this character to be quite juddery, right? I can set a key here, 5 frames layer, come down, and another 5 frame layer, add it back to its original point. Open up the graph editor, and I'm just going to make sure that's there. I'm just going to cycle this. Don't know why it won't. 65. 65. This be a bit weird. Maybe, don't know why it's not working. Copy. Paste. Okay, I'm just going to kill the curves here. So on this additive layer, I've just got this up and down motion, which I'm cycling on top of the original motion, right? So just we've got this nice happy but like ball balloon thing, right? And I can add as much of that kind of additive motion as I want, or take it away, right? So if I take it fully off, I've just got what I had originally. I can dial in a little bit of that, right? And now I've got this kind of happy, kind of bouncy kind of ball. So it's, you know, it's quite, you can do a lot with it. And I'll show you what you can do with cameras with it as well at some point to add camera shake, which is quite a nice way to do that as well.
Okay.
But you can see how, I mean, you can, I mean, I touch the surface of these, but some people will be extremely elaborate with their animation layers. So they'll have a blocking layer, then they'll have a spline layer, then they'll have a polish layer, and they'll just do all these extra little tweaks all on top of one another without destroying their kind of underlying blocking. You know, they're just working a little bit more, editing. It can be extremely powerful. It used to be buggy as shit, but now it's really stable. But yeah, cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Also, the measurement during setting, all the people finding it's like 30 FPS. Could you show me how you would bring it into a scene and use it in 24 FPS Maya scene without converting the video to 24? Just export a render sequence, an animated render sequence, either using QuickTime Pro or Premiere or something, and then just bring the image sequence in instead. Export it as 24. Sure. I mean, it's just going to be a guide. You're not going to lose much. You know, there's going to be some compressed frames, but it's not really going to. You're not going to notice much. Or leave it at 30, right, and just animate to 24. Let Maya do it all for you and not worry about anything. Cool. Okay. Anything else, or everyone pretty clued up and feel like they know what they have to do for Sunday?
I actually uploaded my blocking pass.
Oh yes, let's have a quick look at that, shall we? And go share. Okay. So something you've got to be wary of with this character is because he's quite blocky, yeah, no pun intended, from his like torso up. That he can become more like a paddle. Okay, so you want to make sure that if you hit those extreme positions, that you're easing into them, right? Otherwise, you just get this kind of pop feature. I mean, in the blocking, that's what it's reading as at the moment, right? He comes in, he goes like 2 double taps.
Yeah.
Down here. So just be wary of that, and you may want to just add in or ease into that motion a little more. So like you're coming down, you go up, and then you're down again. So I read a flash up here, then or down. So it's like So just making, you don't have to come up that far on this one. Maybe as you're leaning down, it just comes up, but he's still like quite curved in the spine. But we can go into more detail with that on Tuesday if it's still there.
I'll actually try to refine it more. It's just the first pass.
Sure, that's good. It's a great first start. Cool.
Thank you.
Nice. Okay, all right. There we are. What? Heading in Sunday is for you to review and critique class, but not for grading yet, right? No, the blocking is in for grading on Sunday. This first week is a first turnaround. So you have video ref and blocking in the first week. Now I know it says the 16th. This confuses, I think, a lot of people, but we end up running out of time if we start the first submission on this. Well, basically, it's the Sunday closest, or the first Sunday to what this date says in here. Let me share my screen so everyone can see what I'm talking about. Now I will double check again, but this says the 16th, but actually because our first week is here, this from the 6th or from the 7th we got together, the first submission is actually the 12th. And every Sunday following that is a submission of something, right? Not every single section is graded, like not weighted here, Spline, but 30% for a completed run and jump. So you want to make sure that you've got all your effort in there. So if you want to make sure that you have the best type of polish possible, it's better to spend it up front here in the blocking and the spline, and then we kind of polish that up. Because if you can get to a good spline stage, then polish is kind of just, you could do that forever, right? You can just keep going and going and going and going and going. So even though a grade might not be required here, it still gets graded by us to just make sure that me and you know that you're on the right track for things. Okay. Due date on the site says next Thursday. Yeah, ignore what the site says. It's wrong. I don't know why it's like that, but Sunday, please. So, yeah, Sunday. I think we said 5 p.m. UK time. It's kind of like a cut-off. Hopefully that gives everyone enough time to look at it. After Sunday, would it be considered late? And our ER assignments are flat 10% off. The thing is upload something. You're better off uploading something and getting a grade rather than you kind of miss it, you get a 0, because as we go through, we can always regrade things, right? So, but there's no point in regrading something like the spline pass, for example. You're better off just getting a submission, getting reviewed, and getting a good kind of direction on for the for the polish. And if by halfway through the obstacle course you're like, oh, I had another pass at my final run and jump, would you mind having a little regrade on that? We can go through and do that. Right? So basically, everyone has time to redo things pretty much up until I think the Tuesday before we do our one-on-ones. So I think the Thursday will be our last session, in week 11, and that'll be our one-on-one. So if Tuesday is kind of like cut-off time for any kind of improvements on any shots across the board if you're not happy with your grades. Cool. Yes, definitely time to sleep. Okay. All right. Well, I'll let you all go, and I'll catch you Sunday. But if you have any questions, feel free to message me. I think Jason, you messaged me about Michael, right? You wanted to find a bit more information about him. There's I'm not too sure if you guys get the option for it yet, but if any of you have, I'm sure you should have been graduates before on a class. If you go to the Anim School tab on the left, where you can go in and watch like general recordings and stuff like that, there's a graduation tab, and Mike did a graduation kind of keynote speech back in 2017, which will give you kind of an insight into the video is really pretty shit, to be honest with you, but it's a bit low res. But I think he'd just done one for last year's graduation class, so that will probably come online soon for those that can view it. I think everyone who's on Anim School should be able to view it, but that would be good there. He runs a school called the Animation Collective. He's a Pixar animator, but he runs a kind of summer school called the Animation Collective. So you might be able to go to that site and find some stuff. He used to do stuff for Animation Mentor. I think there's a clip online with him talking about how he animated a character with some handcuffs. So that'd be interesting to go through there. I think he talks a little bit about polish. But yeah, on the Anim School site, that's where I'd go to have a look at some stuff. Sweet. Okay then. Yeah, I saw that. Sweet. All right, perfect. All right, so I'll get to see you on Tuesday. Hopefully the demo was useful and you got something out of it. And I'll show you next week another way to block and spline. Basically, what I like to show is a variety of things, so you know that there isn't a one way to work, right? It's not all about sticking to a video reference. It's not animation layers. It's not stepped keys. It's kind of what's going to work for the shot. You can do it this way. You can do it that way. You know, at the end of the day, everyone turns in a shot which is splined out and polished. No one cares how you got there. We just want you to get there as fast as possible, and then you can spend as much time polishing and kind of figuring out the craft a little bit more. So just try and get rid of all the technical shit, and then we can focus on some more artwork. Awesome. All right then. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend,
Thank
and
you.
I'll see you next week.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Bye now.